I'm going to talk about a trip I made 24 years ago in 1997 in South America. One of the orders I got internally was to go to Bolivia. So I'm talking now only about one little spot out of 13 places where I went. And one thing you can remember perhaps one day is if you learned unconditional obedience from perhaps your parents or school teachers or whatever, you learned to obey to an external order. But then later on, you can transform it into an unconditional obedience to your own inner guidance. And that is very easy if you learned unconditional obedience to an external source first. So obedience is not so bad of a word, I think. It can really benefit yourself. So the order was to go to a mine. And I even didn't know that there were mines, but okay, I didn't read about it, I didn't hear about it, I didn't know the name. I went, I looked, I asked in the bus station and they brought me to that village. I chose a little hotel and the first instruction was go to thermas to clean yourself. Okay, I didn't question, I just went to the street, put my thumb up, a car stopped, 3 people inside. There was place for me and they were going exactly to the same thermas. When I arrived there, I was just stunned. I couldn't believe it. It was dark grey, greasy water, and on the walls there were green algas growing. So I was wondering how I could clean myself with that water, but I didn't question. I programmed my Merkaba that it would be good for all levels of myself, and especially, of course, for my physical body, that I would come out very purified and healthy. And I went my head underwater, and it was really nice, warm water, volcanic water, really wonderful. So when I had showered, I went outside and the next instruction came immediately, go up the mountain. Okay, I walked up the mountain and on top I discovered a little round lake, perhaps 100 meters diameter, a lake that was really hundreds of meters deep. And the instruction was to walk around the lake and then sit down with my feet inside the water. Not go in the water because it's very dangerous water, because it sucks you down to the bottom. So I was sitting there and went back to the hotel. The next morning came the following instruction: go inside the mine. Alright, I went to the village itself. I was lodging outside. There I hired all the material, the helmet, the boots, the lamp and the raincoat, let's say. And there was an ex-miner. He had an accident, he couldn't work anymore, but he could guide. And he offered himself to be our guide for one of the active mines. So I thought, yeah, that's okay. And 2 youngsters and me, we went with him to the mine entrance. He told that there were 500 entrances of the mine, of which 50 were still active, and we would take one of the 50 active entrances. At the beginning, there were already all stalactites hanging from the ceiling, full of arsenicum. The smell was horrible, and I barely could breathe. It was a narrow path. I had to bend my head in order to pass through it. The path was going up. Because when the train cars come out of the mine, they go always down, and depending on the slope of the path and the weight of the train is what defines the speed of the train, because there's no motor on it or nothing. So between two exits of the trains we could go in, and the guide was explaining us, but at one moment he said, no, we are going deep inside the mountain. I said, no way, I don't go in anymore, I want to go out. He said, you can't go out, you have to sit down here on this stone, because otherwise you will be flattened by the trains that pass by with the ore. So sit down here and wait till we come back, and then you can come out. How long will it be? 1 hour, 1.5 hours, he said. Okay. And I was sitting there and hearing all the steps, big steps, of all the boots of the miners. But I never saw the miners, but I could hear them. And slowly the flame of my lamp went lower and lower, and the whole light went out. I was in the pitch dark. It was amazing. I activated my Merkaba, put the Christ consciousness grid around my Merkaba, and suddenly I saw millions of souls trapped in the mountain, in big suffering, in pain, in hunger. They were almost all women and children. I was very amazed. I didn't know anything. So they were there, and I showed them the energy fields of myself and of the mountain and of the earth and Venus, a holographic way back to source. And they all went in one whoosh, and it was pitch dark again for a while. And then suddenly in my left vision I saw a woman, and I knew it was Mother Earth immediately. She was floating above the floor of the cave. She had no feet, and she said, thank God that you came, because I couldn't support anymore this suffering. I was about to collapse completely. And then I asked her, please, if you have to collapse, do it on a night that nobody is inside of the mine. For example, Christmas or New Year's Eve. And I asked her, please wait to collapse for the time being, because there are still some 1,000 families living of what you are giving them, the silver. And she said, well, I can promise not to collapse for the next coming 2 years, but afterwards I can't promise it. And she disappeared. It was again pitch dark, and I was having so happy feelings. My heart was really opening to the whole world, to everything. This was a big liberation for all these souls. And a few weeks later, I was walking through Santiago de Chile on a sidewalk on a very busy street, and the sun was shining in my back. It was a beautiful blue day, and suddenly I saw a huge light ball coming towards me and stopping in the air. And those were the millions of trapped souls who got liberated and who came to thank me for having helped them to go back to light. And I was standing there looking up in the air, all the cars running around me, and the tears were streaming on my cheeks. I felt so much love, so much unity, so much purpose in life. After all the suffering, there is again unity, there is healing, there is everything possible. So we went, but we were in each other's hearts. And On the 14th of October 2021, I went to a mine in Spain, the mine of Pulpí, not Potosi, but Pulpí. And that is a metal mine. They extracted metal for the English and the Spanish and the French for making their tanks during the Second World War and so on. And they did it for hundreds of years, excavating the mountain and following the arteries of metal through the mountain and caving around it and making arches and so on. They did it in a very intelligent way, 5 floors deep, and we went with a guide again. Before I went into the mountain, I placed, with intention and attention, a prana tube exactly through the geode that is there, that was found only in 1999. That is the moment that Mother Earth is opening her library. It looks like a library for the Earth. These huge crystals in a geode of 8 by 2 by 2 by 2 meters is one of the biggest geodes ever found in the world. There I put also a star tetrahedron, the Merkaba, and the Christ consciousness grid of myself, and one for the mountain. And there is also one around the earth. And I liberated the trapped souls, mainly male souls, to go to the light. There were not so many as in Potosi, but there were also many victims of all this harsh and very dangerous work they were doing. And the geode was found by accident by a young guy who went during a meal the miners were having on the 3rd floor or somewhere there inside the mountains. And he was walking around and saw a little small opening, made it bigger and discovered the huge geode. There is a little opening, you can go in, they don't allow people to go in because otherwise these precious crystals will be damaged very quickly. But now this wisdom of the geode is able to come out of the geode. It was locked inside the geode, but with the opening, the physical opening, with the opening through the prana tube, the toroidal fields that are coming out of the Merkaba of the mountain, it can connect with all the toroidal fields of the earth itself. Now the content of the geode, all these crystals, can start communicating with the elemental beings of other crystals, the earth, the metals, the air, the water, the fire. All the elemental beings can now connect and unite and form a huge, huge cap of wisdom, of freedom, open doors. So it's not enclosing the earth, but it is providing the earth with a whole cap of doors, opening doors to further dimensions, to other frequencies. Each one is doing its own work, and we humans have to take the responsibility for ourselves. We have to be authentic beings, original beings, not afraid for anything. Our body is only a fraction of who we are, so even if they kill us, it doesn't matter because we go on other levels, of course. So enjoy this cap of freedom around the earth. Till the next time.